this video has a lot of spoilers, so if you don't want to know a lot about the ending of Pillars of Eternity, you know, don't watch this video. But this is one of the outcomes. I ended up taking Theos' soul, and I destroyed it because the guy's an idiot. And he's just, you know, a real bad guy. Why would you want his soul, like, lingering around? But I'm interested to know in the comments if you did something else. So now the machine is over here. You basically get to ask, you know, you get the word from the Theos at the end, what you want to do with this machine. That's what we're doing right here. This is the ending of Pillars of Eternity. I don't understand, like, I speak to these guys that are gods, but apparently they're not gods. You know, I don't understand. Are they just like powerful beings?
You know something of quiet servitude, Watcher. Groveling and simpering before the gods whose aid you need, so that when they finally raise you to a place of power, you can seize what you desire. You have labored at the pleasure of others. That shriveled hag in Hadrit House, those preening soldiers with more taste for silk than steel, the wretched tribesmen playing out their fantasies of grandeur. And then you cowered and knelt before the gods themselves, begging one paltry favor and receiving riddles and visions in response.
Now, I was asked by these gods, quote-unquote gods, whatever you want to do, that they actually said I got the favor of the god of entropy to help me, which was the ice god. I have a feeling you could have chosen other gods, depending on what god you kneeled to in the temple. So I just randomly, you know, picked this ice god. I snuck into the temple and killed him and took the key or whatever, or plugged the hole. And on my way here, these guys were like, I had a vision of these gods before I entered this area or something, and they were like, the god of entropy didn't want me to release the souls because he's just like, it's like, whatever. It's pretty obvious that, like, my character is kind of good, so I'm going to try to release the souls, to have them restore, kind of like do what's been done. But the gods were like, don't do it, so it's kind of strange.
And now the gods give you orders and commands, even while you set out to fix what they cannot. Yet what have they offered you?
Good point.
The exiled queen is not an ungrateful patron. Finish the work Theos began. Strengthen Woodica with these souls and allow her to become the most powerful of all the gods, with you as her favored.
Interesting, they wanted to make me turn me into Theos. I won't help you, you idiot. This Whitaker god seems... I've never met her. You've never met her as a character. I guess Scan is a servant of hers. She just seems like really evil. Just the motives are really weird. So
You say that now, But when you're standing in front of the machine, considering the lifetimes and the powers that await you, we'll see what you do.
Hey.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Return the souls to the bodies that they were intended for. This is what they want me to do. Entropically disintegrate the souls, ending their existence. That's what the God wanted me to do. Allows the souls to pass through the vein of Whitaker. Disperse goes into an unknown location. What kind of choice is that? Distribute the essence of the existing souls to Deerwood to strengthen them. Oh, to strengthen the existing people. Interesting. Just kind of the cop-out choice here. Return the souls to the bodies they were intended for. Just won the game, got the achievement. It doesn't show up though. It's a Steam achievement. It's over here. It's pretty cool. Here we go.
At your command, the ancient device became your instrument, spinning to life with deafening resonance and gathering up the swirling essence like thread on a great spindle. There, in the pale pulsing glow of the machine that set you on this path long ago, you summoned all your strength, focusing on your objective and blocking out all else. With a single concussive blast that rocked the chamber and sent you tumbling to the ground, you freed the souls from their stasis. Exhausted, your consciousness slipping away, your last sight was of the machine, dark and dormant. Then your eyes closed, and sleep welcomed you at long last. After coming to and searching for some time, you discovered the route Theos used to enter Sun and Shadow, and embarked on a long and arduous ascent back to the surface. You emerged in Ter Evron after days of tunneling through the rubble Theos had left behind, and when you stepped into the daylight, you were faced with a different Deerwood than the one you had left. At your direction, the souls diverted by Theos were guided back to the vessels originally meant for them. For the first time, parents of hollow-born children woke to the cries of their infants, and looked into their eyes to see them staring back. People fell to their knees where they stood, thanking Helia or Mogren, or even Aethys for their forgiveness of whatever guilt they felt they bore. But for all the relief that had come to some parents, others only found new grief. For many thousands of Hollowborn had died during Wideone's legacy, many by their parents' own hands. For those children, there would be no homecoming.
Well, that was
Yet the last Hollow birth was in the past now, and those parents willing to risk trying for a new child were frequently rewarded, often with twins. Many felt they saw Helia's hand in it, and the year would be remembered as the year of Helia's splendor. Though you had killed Lord Radric in his throne room, so strong was his drive to rid his land of Aothasians that he returned to life as a death guard, a deathless crusader for his brutal cause.
No way.
With the remains
Come
of his
on.
humanity stripped away, Radric came to see all the people of Gilded Vale as worshippers of Aethys, and one day he led his forces into the village personally to see them all purged from his lands. Gilded Vale was left a hollow shell, its buildings ruined, and its people slaughtered.
Oh,
Even travelers
What?
and would-be squatters knew better than to take refuge inside its borders. Lord Radric returned to Radric's Hold, where he remained, keeping eternal watch over his barren domain.
I wonder if that's a sequel.
Following the
Something we can do
assassinations
after.
of
Go
Duke
kill that
Avar
guy.
Wolfgren and Lady Webb, Defiance Bay was thrown into political upheaval. In the ensuing weeks, the streets had become the domain of looters and blackguards. Few dared to step outside their own doors alone or unarmed. But order was soon re-established by the Knights of the Crucible, who, despite their depleted numbers, had gained favor in the public eye for their role in the unraveling of the conspiracy surrounding Weidwyn's legacy,
That's who I
and were
helped.
quickly reinforced by returning forces from Fleetbreaker Castle. For the Knights, their resurgence marked a return to the tradition as well. Having seen firsthand the dangers presented by dabblers in animancy, the Order quickly abolished the practice internally, preferring the familiarity of their hammers and forges to the uncertainties of Essence and Adra. Their identity rediscovered, the Knights suppressed their political aspirations and began once again to train their recruits in the art of blacksmithing, recapturing the post-revolutionary ideals of Deerwood and regaining the respect of its citizens as a result. Though the machine atop Ter Noaneth had been disabled, it had not seen its last use. Heritage Hill was rebuilt, and no sooner had the first families moved in to resettle the district than members of the Leaden Key, acting under standing orders from their Grand Master, climbed the tower and reactivated the
No
machine.
way.
The initiates slew a handful of the new settlers under cover of night and watched as history repeated itself, the victims reanimating and devouring the survivors. After this second incident, the district would remain abandoned.
What?
The Duke's assassination at
I
the
destroyed
apparent
the
hands of
machine,
an
I think.
animancer had caused catastrophic rioting in the streets of Defiance Bay. But those who had escaped the melee and the palace hearings remembered the testimonies of the strange guest who had shown up that day and absolved animancy, implicating the Leaden Key instead. The rumor spread quickly, and soon the popular belief was that the assassin had been a Leaden Key spy. When the legacy had lifted, people came to see it not as a sign that the riots had been according to the god's wishes, as Theos had hoped, but as a confirmation that animancy had never been the source of the problem in the first place. Deerwoodans instead convinced themselves that the riots had somehow purged Defiance Bay of Leaden Key spies, and that the end of Weidwyn's legacy was their well-deserved reward. The rage against animancers was quickly forgotten, and those who had survived were permitted to return to Brackenbury Sanitarium and rebuild it so they might resume their studies. The rejuvenation of Cadnua was a short-lived endeavor. While the rise of a new master had presented new hopes of the keep being restored to its former glory, time proved otherwise. Plans for maintenance of the structure were postponed time and time again, until ultimately they were scrapped altogether, their master's priorities lying elsewhere. Palagina had gone against the Duke's Bell's orders by inventing a new trade arrangement with the Anamenfath to accommodate the recovering Deerwooden market. With the Deerwood's people still weakened by Weidwyn's legacy, the Valian republics easily pushed their would-be competitors out of the market. For her outrageous insubordination and audacity, Palagina was banished from the republics. She traveled north in the Eastern Reach, avoiding Valian ports and entering the ranks of the kind wayfarers. Despite her bravery and dedication to those in her care, her strange appearance made her feel like an outsider wherever she went. Adair chose not to return home. Still conflicted as to his role in the Saints' War and unsure of his place in the Deerwood, he took a ship to Adir and reunited with his parents. There, he resumed the quiet lifestyle he had grown accustomed to in his years as a farmhand in Gilded Vale.
I couldn't finish his quest.
When the dust settled in sun and shadow, Aloth looked upon the remains of Theos Ix Arcanon, his former master. He saw where the Grandmaster had gone wrong, and he knew what he would do better. The secret of the gods would be preserved, and with it, the sanity and well-being of all Kith. He donned the remains of Theos's ceremonial garb and prepared himself for the long and lonely task ahead. With the Watcher's goals accomplished and his own vows fulfilled, Kanarua sailed back to Dakoa. His friends and family found him much changed, for a pall had fallen upon the man, smothering his former enthusiasm. Called before the Lore College, Kana told them of the pain the Engwithan legacy brought to the lands abroad. He insisted that a search for answers abroad could only fragment the Rawatai people, as it had done to the Deerwood. His findings were met with much respect, and Kana Rua's voice came to be considered an influential one in the growing move towards Rawatai's isolation. With Theos defeated and the souls released from Sun and Shadow, healthy children were born once again in the Deerwood. The grieving mother sought a place where she might do penance for the birthing bell. She returned to Deerford, where, to the astonishment of the villagers, she delivered the first healthy child in over a decade. She remained there, and with each new birth, she saw a measure of hope restored to the Deerwood, and a measure of grace for her own troubled past. Durrance used Magrin's strength only until Theos had been cast from the world, and then swore off her influence entirely. Regret came to weigh heavily on his mind, and a man who had never previously lacked for words or opinions came to embrace silence and contemplation. He continued to wander, penniless and destitute, searching now not for the reason for his goddess's silence, but for a mechanism for revenge. The charred robes he continued to wear as a reminder that he had been burned by his goddess, and not just by the flames of the Godhammer. Yu and Sagani never found Persoc together. The Adra figurine had gone dark by the time they emerged from Sun and Shadow, and it was another month before Sagani finally accepted that Persoc's trail had gone cold again. Her search took her beyond the Deerwood and as far as the Living Lands. She saw the great coastal cities of Rawatai and the ruins of Old Valia, absorbing the details of these strange and distant lands. 20 years passed before the Adra figurine finally glowed again. When it did, she followed its signal to a quiet hamlet on the outskirts of Adir. There, she met a young farmer and told her of her past as an elder of Masuk. Sagani returned to a village that had forgotten her face, but remembered her story. Masuk greeted her with cautious warmth, and Sagani found that their ways had become strange to her. She also learned that Kalu had perished of winter fever a few years before, and her middle child, Najuo, had died in a raid. But she found her daughter Yakona a hunter and mother of 3, and her son Malak a builder of mighty walls. In them, she came to find her place in the village, and the familiar contours of a world that had changed in her absence. For you, the death of Theos brought an end to your waking visions, and a silence to the whispers of the past. In their absence, you were able to sleep. The questions of a distant lifetime ceased to trouble your soul. All that remained was what to make of the answer. But at the moment, there was little to be done, and the matter would have to wait. A long journey loomed ahead.
And that was the ending of the game. I didn't find that one guy with the dwarf, but I finished most of this guy's quests, and I couldn't get the guy in the records hall to help out Eder. So it was kind of strange to hear that dwarf hunter's story. I had like a ton of other people and so forth, and I didn't finish the masters below, unfortunately. I got down and you need to have a lot of detection stuff, and I was like, I wanted to finish the story because there was like 9 more levels or something. But I have a feeling, I mean, I want to beat it, so I wanted to beat the game, and I wanted to go back to Cad Nua, but I didn't know the game would end like this. Let's just speed this up. Let's see. Look at how many people were involved with this game. That's crazy. It's like 1 million people. This must be all the backers. All these people that supported the game. Look at this going on forever. We're in the D's, and I have it on X32. This is crazy. Slow down just for a second. Look at all these people who helped back this game. It's amazing. I'm just trying to see if there's something at the end of the game here. And that's it. Guess not. Cool. What a great game. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys on the battlefield.